Imagine this. You're walking through a quiet forest. You find a campsite. The tent is there. The car is there. The food is still on the table. But the family is gone. No signs of struggle, no screams, no footprints. Just silence and a sudden emptiness that makes the hair on your neck stand up. This is the true story of the Cowden family. A young couple, their son, and a baby girl who vanished from a peaceful Oregon forest and were found months later under circumstances that still don't make sense.
Richard Cowden was a 28-year-old logger. Quiet, hard-working, the kind of man who fixed things with his hands. His wife, Belinda, was 22, warm, kind, and loved being a mother. Their children, David and little Melissa, were just 5 years old and 5 months old. On Labor Day weekend, 1974, the family drove out to Copper Creek in the Rogue River National Forest. They had gone there many times before. It was their favorite camping spot. This wasn't deep wilderness, it was peaceful, open, and familiar. They brought their truck, fishing poles, milk bottles, snacks, and a little radio. They set up camp and planned to stay for the weekend. But they wouldn't come home.
On September 1st, they were seen at a small store nearby, buying milk. Everything looked normal. Later that day, they were seen again by other campers. Then, nothing. When Richard didn't show up to dinner at his parents' house, concern began to build. His father drove to the campsite to check in. What he found didn't make sense. The car was still there. The tent was perfectly in place. The diaper bag was hanging on a line. A full carton of milk was sitting on the table. Belinda's purse was untouched. Even Richard's wallet was in plain sight. But there was no sign of the family. No sign of a struggle. No broken branches. No blood. No footprints. It was as if the entire family had stood up and disappeared into thin air.
Law enforcement was called in. Search dogs, helicopters, and dozens of searchers combed the area for days. They searched the creek, the woods, even nearby caves. Nothing. And this wasn't just any disappearance. This was a family of 4. 2 adults, a child, and a baby. How could they all vanish without a single trace? The milk left on the table suggested they had planned to return any moment. The baby's diaper bag still hanging. Richard's fishing line still tied to a tree. Everything said, "We'll be right back." But they never were. At first, people wondered, did they walk off and get lost? But that made no sense. Why would they leave the baby bag behind? Why would they go into the forest without shoes, jackets, or supplies? Then came the whispers. Had someone taken them? Had something darker happened? But again, no tire tracks,
No blood, no evidence of foul play, nothing. And when months passed with no news, the case started to grow cold. It was like the forest had closed its arms around them and refused to give them back.
7 months later, in April 1975, 2 hunters were walking near a remote area over 7 miles from the Cowden's campsite. They found something they couldn't forget. Under a pile of rocks, the bodies of Belinda and the 2 children. Nearby, inside a small cave, they discovered Richard's body. The official report suggested they had been murdered, but no one knows exactly how, or why, or when. And the strangest part? How the family got so far away, undetected, with no signs of a struggle, no calls for help, no evidence left behind at the original campsite. To this day, no one has been charged. No clear suspect was ever confirmed. Only questions. Why would a killer leave the campsite untouched? Why hide the family so far away and so well? Why was there no noise, no witness, no evidence? Even the lead investigator called it the strangest case he'd ever seen. Some believe it was a stranger passing through. Some think it was someone who knew the family. Others just don't know. Because the forest doesn't always speak. Sometimes it keeps its secrets. If stories like this stay with you, if you're drawn to the unexplained, the missing, the silence that never got filled, you might want to subscribe. Because this wasn't the only family who vanished. And there are more stories the forest still refuses to explain. The Cowden family wanted a quiet weekend in the woods. They brought milk for the kids. They brought fishing poles. They brought peace. Instead, they were swallowed by something no one could see. And even when they were found, no one truly understood how they got there. No one saw them leave. No one heard a cry. And at the campsite, there were no footprints, no struggle, no trace. Until today, no one knows how a family of 4 could be taken from a forest without the ground remembering a single step.